Hello, everybody. We're just about 1 minute to 6. So I see Jeff. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Walter. Good
Good.
evening.
Good evening. How you doing, my friend?
Doing terrific.
Fantastic. Yeah, great. I see people are signing on, and we actually got an oversubscription to today's program. So if we do go over the numbers, we're gonna try and make a plan on a much larger platform. But we hope to be able to conclude it on this platform. So if we go over, we're going to give send out a ID code for a much bigger platform. So let's see how it goes. So yeah, we've got Jeff Rich today. What an exciting day for us to learn and increase in knowledge and wisdom. And I've known Jeff for over 10 years. Jeff was introduced to me by Bishop T.D. Jakes when he came to South Africa. And, so he's a leading global businessman. And you're going to be able to interact with him today and gain a lot of knowledge and wisdom. So I see people are coming on. So we just could carry on and while people are coming in. So I just want to give you a bit of background, Jeff, in terms of his bio. Well, before I do that, maybe let me give some rules to this engagement, right? So all your devices are muted, okay? So when it comes time to questions and answers, only then, if you are selected to ask a question, then you can unmute your device, but otherwise throughout the whole session, try and keep it muted. The only people that will have the mics on is going to be Jeff and so only when you have to ask a question, then you can unmute your device, and then after you can then mute it. And when you ask a question, just tell us your name and tell us what you do, and then mute your mic again so that we can have some order. All right, great. So Jeff, operating partner at Sunstone Partners, a San Mateo-based growth equity firm. Sunstone invests in high-growth software and technology-enabled services companies focused in one of four sectors: cloud and enterprise IT, healthcare IT, internet and marketing services, and cybersecurity. Jeff previously served as the CEO of Affiliated Computer Services Incorporated, where he grew a startup company into an IPO, which became one of the Fortune 500 companies with a turnover of over 5.6 billion rand. I think, sorry, $5.6 billion. In rands, that's about $100 billion per annum. That's the turnover, with employees over 50,000 employees worldwide. This is a global company. Jeff currently serves on the board of four companies: Avetium, Nexa, OSF Global, BP3. These are companies that he has invested in. He also serves on the boards of three nonprofit organizations: the Horatio Alga Association, Best Buddies International, and the T.D. Jakes Foundation. He has previously served as Director of Outmatch, Onika, Fruition Partners, Zimbra, Digital Generation, Royalty Share, Pegasus Systems, Affiliated Computer Systems, the Dallas Symphony Association, and the University of Michigan Business School. Jeff holds a BA degree from the University of Michigan Business School and is a member of the Horatio Alga Association and Young Presidents Organization, YPO. He resides in Dallas, Texas, has a fabulous wife, and spends his free time on a bike or hiking with his beagles. Welcome, Jeff. People are really excited to hear from you today, and so would like to welcome you.
Thank you, Walter. It's a pleasure to be here, and I hope everybody's having an awesome Sunday.
Fantastic, fantastic, great. It's a beautiful day in because a lot of us are wearing jerseys here, so we're trying to get through this lockdown in cold weather. I hope your weather is much better than ours.
Well, I'm in Dallas, Texas, so it's starting to heat up. Fortunately, we've been having a good bit of rain the last month or so, but it's starting to creep into the 90 degrees. I guess that's north of 30 degrees Celsius for most of you folks.
Right, right, right. So, Jeff, right now, worldwide, we're going through a global crisis, that nobody anticipated. Business owners are wondering what to do and how to move forward. So it's a very a difficult time for a lot of people, and we want to thank you for your time. And I know you're a very busy man, and thank you for availing us with your time to share your wisdom with us. And I know you run multiple companies that run into billions of dollars, and so we really are honored to have you on board. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, and then after that, I'm going to open it up to our entrepreneurs, to ask questions as well. So this whole platform, Jeff, just to put you in the picture, we decided to start this platform in order to empower our entrepreneurs, because during this difficult time, a lot of people are not able to cope with what's happening, and they don't know what to do right now, and they're not sure whether their businesses are going to survive after this whole COVID-19. And a lot of people are saying that the COVID-19 is probably going to be around for at least another 2 years at best. So this requires a whole shift, in a paradigm shift in how people have been running their businesses. And so we decided to create this platform to engage young entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs, those who already are established as well, in being able to communicate and help us to get through this. But we also have a vision of building an academy to train entrepreneurs, and we're also looking at establishing a university in the next couple of months, an online university that will be able to help people through these difficult times. So that's really what this platform is all about. So, Jeff, my first question to you is, I'd like you to tell us about who Jeff is. Your background. How you grew up, and tell us about Jeff Rich.
Well, first, let me say, Walter, it's inspiring what you're doing. Getting entrepreneurs, like-minded business people together to talk about issues is an important thing to do. Uh, I've always felt if you get enough people in the room, there's nothing that can happen to you that somebody hasn't already experienced and can give you some help and some wisdom as to how to get through it. So, hats off to you for starting this because I think it's really important to be open and uh, discuss different issues with people. As for
Thank you.
me, I'm a small town boy. I was born and raised in a little town called Goodrich, Michigan. Michigan is that state. When you look at the United States, it's shaped like a mitten, surrounded by all the Great Lakes. It was a
Yeah.
small town of about 3,000 people. Uh, I grew up country. Spent my days playing in the woods and in the cornfields of the neighboring farms. Uh, when you do grow up country, you have the pleasure of working on a farm, and I did that every summer since I was 11 years old. Went to the local public school, which was, of course, fairly small by U.S. standards. There were 124 people in my graduating class. Some people feel sorry for me because I went to a small school, but I thought it was great because it was fairly easy for me to stand out. I was number two academically and was able to captain my football, hockey, and baseball teams. And Love sports. I always wanted to be a professional athlete, and it wasn't until later in life that I figured found out I wasn't good enough. Uh, I was blessed with great parents. My father, he worked at General Motors his entire career. He started out as a shop foreman and worked his way up through several different jobs, ultimately becoming a plant manager in the transmission group. He managed about 8 plants worldwide, but he was an engineer at heart. Uh, my mother, she was a first she was an office manager for a car dealership, and then then she went to college and became a substitute school teacher, and then at age 45 she went back to school and decided to become a nurse, and she became an intensive care nurse for the next 20 years before she retired. So I was blessed with great parents growing up, but my world kept opening up and getting bigger and bigger as I went to university and discovered more things, and then as I went to Citibank. And so it's been just a really fun, amazing journey that I wouldn't trade for anything.
Wow, fantastic. Yeah, that's a very rich background, and yeah, no, that's fantastic. So, tell us, Jeff. Sorry, by the way, if there's inspired your entry into business as opposed to going to work for someone else. What was your motivation, or did you sort of work for another company before you started your business?
Uh, I had several jobs. Uh, my first job working on the farm, baling hay, it was a horrible job. I hated it. I hated it. But it was a beautiful job because it inspired me to go to college and get good grades. Uh, and I I suppose it was my father that inspired me to go into business originally, but I also had my uncle Don. He had a home improvement business. He was an entrepreneur, and he had a classic home improvement business where they installed, aluminum siding or windows and doors and insulation into homes. So after I uh, transitioned from my farming career, I went to work for Uncle Don, first as a tradesman for a couple of summers in college, and then as a salesman. And That was great sales training. There's a famous movie called Tin Man with Danny DeVito. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but that was Uncle Don. He was a home improvement master. It was great sales trainings, but I quickly figured out that I didn't have much interest in the home improvement business or in automotive, which most of my family was in the automotive business, being from Michigan. Uh, I suppose I had no interest in the automotive industry because when I graduated from college, it was 1982, and the automotive industry was in the depth of a recession. So that was the last place I wanted to work. And so I went into banking, and I figured banking would be a interesting place to go to work so that I could learn a lot about a number of different businesses. And boy, did I ever. I learned about copper. I learned about manufacturing. I learned about movie theaters, Coke bottlers, beer distributors. And then I started to learn a little bit about technology. Um, but I also learned some other things while working at the bank. Um, I noticed that um, there were a lot of good CEOs that were customers of the bank, and also some bad CEOs. And and those CEOs became my role models. And I decided, and I would watch and really take notes of what the good leaders would do, and also take notes about what the bad leaders would do. And I thought to myself, I can do that. I would like to be a CEO. I noticed another thing while I was a banker, and that was the customers of the bank seemed to be making more money than the bankers themselves. And so that really inspired me to go off and get equity and start driving my own ship. And and that's fundamentally why I left Citibank in 1989 to join ACS, which was a fledgling startup. I didn't really know much about technology then. Uh, didn't know anything at all, really, other than I thought computers were going to be an important part of business going forward. Uh, that's all I knew. And so I left the bank, and that became a pivotal point in my journey. And I tend to think of my career in three separate blocks. I think of it. I forget all the summer jobs when I was in school. That doesn't matter. But after school, I was a banker first for 7 years. Then I was a CEO, growing my own business for the next 16 years. And now I work with Sunstone, helping a number of young CEOs build their companies and achieve their dreams. So that's really the three stages I'm in now. So, uh, and
Wow, that's
it's
fantastic.
quite a great journey.
Wow, that's amazing. So that's fantastic. So Jeff, you did not grow up as a billionaire. You were not born into a family that had billions of dollars. You had to grow your wealth. You had to find your way. You were just like everybody else. That's probably most of the people listening here that had to grow their business as they come up. Now, I'd like to know what are some of the key lessons that you've learned. I mean, you mentioned you studied the CEOs and you could see what the good ones were doing and what the bad ones were doing in the banking sector. Just a couple of nuggets that you can give us about some of that you noticed that you could say that these are lessons to avoid and these are things maybe to do that actually has led you to where you are today.
Yeah, I think we could talk all night and all next week about uh, lessons of leadership. Um, but I think number one is don't be afraid of uncertainty. You're gonna meet moments in inflection points on your journey of building your business where it gets kind of scary and you're not sure what to do. Don't be afraid of uncertainty. Talk to people, talk to your fellow leaders inside your company, talk to fellow leaders outside of your company. Form a group of people. It's important to have a board of directors in a company, but it's also important to have a shadow group of leaders, people that are your peers, people that are your friends, that are also, like people on this call that are leading other businesses, maybe unrelated to your own, but who go through stuff. And it's always painful growing a business. It's never, you know, when we show the charts on Wall Street, it looks like it's a straight line up and to the right. It's not always that way. It's usually a zigzag line, and it's punctuated with some great high notes and some
Eh,
also some devastating low notes. So don't be
yeah.
afraid of uncertainty. And so that's one of the things I notice about great CEOs. They're perpetually optimistic. They're not afraid of uncertainty, and they're also not afraid to make decisions. And that's the number one thing I would tell you as an entrepreneur, and you already know this, but get ready to fail because you're going to have some failures. Right? Every day is not going to be
Okay.
perfect. The goal is to be really good most
Right.
of the time, not perfect. And when you
Mm.
fail, learn something from it, get up and do it again. Does that make
Wow.
sense?
Wow. Yeah, it does. Amazing. I think there's a saying about how Thomas Edison tried to, 1,000 times he was trying to invent, and eventually on the 1001 time he came up with the light bulb, something like that. So, I mean, failure is not a sign that you have failed, and therefore you must quit. I think what you're saying is you've got to readjust, learn from it, and readjust your strategy and how to come back stronger. I think that's really what I hear from you. So failure is not the end of it all. You don't
It's just
shut the
part of the
doors
journey.
at
It's a
failure.
normal part of the
Oh,
journey. Make failure your friend.
wow! Make failure your friend. That's powerful. Okay. Wow, that's powerful. Wow, amazing. Right, right. I hear you. All right. No, fantastic. Now, tell us about the businesses that you run right now. There's maybe people here that are saying, okay, maybe I'm in the same sector. I mean, can you tell us a little bit about each of the companies that you've invested in, and what those companies do?
Sure, sure, happy to. Thankfully, I don't have to run any of them anymore, which is great. Um, Other people
Okay,
run them day to
great.
day. I get to talk to CEOs every week and show up for board meetings and help them think through important strategy issues. I had 6 companies that I was involved in until recently. We sold 2 of them, fortunately, so I now have 4. But I'll tell you about the 6 because uh, uh, what what these companies are all at the forefront of different trends that are rippling through our economy. The first was Annika. It was a cloud engineering firm that helps enterprise clients move into the Amazon cloud and modernize their applications. We sold that business to Rackspace in Q4. 300 million US, 300 million
Oh,
US.
okay.
I haven't converted my brain to count in rand yet, but
Okay.
I think it's a lot more rand too.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. I think
uh,
it's probably about, yeah, maybe what,
what's the
close to
exchange
six
rate
billion,
now?
six billion, about 18 point something, I think, close on
18.
20.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so about 6 billion, about six
Okay.
billion rand. Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Outmatch is another one. Outmatch is a SaaS software business, and companies use Outmatch's software to assess a new hire's personality fit for the job that they're applying for. Companies find that if they assess a person's personality, they can put that person in the right job. You don't want to hire an introvert to be a customer facing person. You want somebody who's outgoing and personable and amicable. We sold Outmatch in on February 28th for $125 million. We were able to close that just before the pandemic really set in and changed everything in the United States. So we got very lucky with our timing on that one. Uh, of the 4 remaining businesses I'm involved in, one is BP3. They're based in Austin, Texas. They are a digital transformation company, and they spend a lot of time with robotic process automation technologies. And if I use acronyms, I apologize. Uh, Go ahead and ask me a question later if you don't understand. But RPA, robotic process automation technologies, are things like Blue Prism, Automation Anywhere, or UiPath. Pretty routine. One of the jobs I had when I was growing up was operating a drill press. Nobody does that anymore. Machines operate their own drill presses. And there's a lot of computer jobs that are pretty boring, frankly. And so robotic process automation technologies are automating a lot of those jobs and functions. Let's see, there's 3 more. Uh, Nexa Receptionist is a virtual receptionist company that's based in Phoenix, Arizona. Uh, and their primary mission is to help law firms and medical firms uh, automate their client communications and streamline them. And we use virtual home-based agents. Uh, we bring them into a center and train them how to do their job, and then they get to take calls and work from home. So it's uh, much better for the clients and much better for the workers. Uh, Another cool company that I have an investment in is called OSF Digital. They're a Salesforce premier partner, but their specialty is B2C and B2B e-commerce. That's business to consumer e-commerce, where they're helping retailers put their business online. People like Louis Vuitton and Hermes and all the big French retailers. Uh, they also are now starting to do that for B2B businesses in the industrial sector, basically putting their customers online, but also putting their suppliers online. So making it a 360 e commerce. And COVID 19 is really accelerating the move towards
Yeah.
e commerce. all businesses, because if we can, the more business we can push through computers, the less face-to-face interaction we have to have, which is of course challenging during the COVID
Mm.
crisis. Uh, the last company I'm invested in right now is called Avertium, and that's a cybersecurity company based in Knoxville, Tennessee, that focuses on mid-market customers that don't have the expertise to do cybersecurity in-house. Uh, I don't know what it's like in South Africa, but a lot of the hackers have turned their attention away from large enterprises, and they're trying to extort money from small businesses like small banks, small hospitals, small town city governments, and they're trying to hold them up for ransomware. So Avertium is focused squarely at those customers to try to give them uh, peace of mind and to prevent them from having to pay ransomware. So those are the companies that I'm involved in now. But we're always looking for new themes. Like as Walter pointed out, when he kind of read what Sunstone focuses on, we spend a lot of time thinking about what companies can we go build that big companies will want to buy 3 to 5 to 7 years down the road. And a lot of those companies are either in cybersecurity now or cloud technologies, which seems to be where everything's moving. I don't know. That's a long-winded
Wow.
answer. I apologize if it was put
Wow.
anybody to
No,
sleep.
that's perfect. That's amazing. That's an amazing portfolio. And it looks like you are on the cutting edge of technology and creating solutions that help make the lives of people more efficient and more effective. So has the COVID-19 affected your business,
Every one of
or
them.
you at other companies? Okay.
Yes, every business has been affected by COVID 19. Most of them, it's been adversity. Fortunately, nothing has been catastrophic that we can't deal with. Uh, Unfortunately, I don't have any business. I have seen some businesses that have benefited from it, but we're not invested in any of those. Like we don't
Right,
we don't
right,
we don't have an investment in Zoom. Zoom's already a public company, very successful.
right, right. Yeah, no, we've seen companies, yes, like Zoom, the platform we're on now, the shares have skyrocketed. Amazon, companies like Amazon, they're projecting that Jeff Bezos is going to be the next trillionaire. And so other companies have just taken advantage of this and skyrocketed. But it looks like everything, as you say, is moving towards online. And because of the social distancing, people will not be able to interact as much for quite a long time. And I think the world that we are looking at in the future is going to be fundamentally different from what it was in the past. Yeah.
So true.
So yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, fantastic. Jeff, I just want to ask you two more questions, and then I'm going to open up to everybody else. I see some people started sending their questions via chat, so I'm going to ask a couple of questions. So if you have a question, if you can type it on chat so that I can know you have a question, and then I'll call your name and what can companies do, or what advice can you give to people? What can they do tomorrow to start to because of this COVID? What's your advice to young entrepreneurs? What are the things that they need to do tomorrow to help them survive past this pandemic?
It's a great question, and I wish there was an easy answer. There's not. There are no easy answers, and usually the answer to that question is fact specific, based upon the business. Because the truth is, every leader has to figure out what to do for their own business. Uh,
Mm,
but the advice I would give you is to keep one word front and center in your mind, and that's adaptation. Uh, Businesses are like people, and have to adapt to their new environment. And you, as leaders of your business, have to make them adapt. I mean, uh, I tell all our CEOs, quit waiting for things to return to normal. This is the new normal, and your business will need to survive and thrive while the pandemic is happening. It may be 2 to 5 years before we have a vaccine how to survive. And that means trim your costs to whatever your new revenue reality is. All of our portfolio companies uh, are generally performing somewhere between 70 and 90% of their 2020 budget. And they've all, kept their cost in lines. All those plans they had to hire for growth, they didn't hire. Uh, Most companies have been able to keep most of their people. Uh, One of our companies had to trim about 10% of their workforce. Uh, but the point is, do what you need to do in the short term, to survive. I'll tell you also that each one of our companies has a plan to deal with what if things get worse? What if the business goes down another 20% from here? What are you going to do? They've already figured that out in advance. It's easier to plan what you're going to do if you do it before you have to do it. If you wait until the crisis is upon you, then it feels very panicky and uncertain. So figure out what you're going to do if things get a little worse. Customers, do you need to modify your service? Do you need to change your product? Do you need to change your pricing plans? Get creative. We have this saying at Sunzone that that you can cut costs to survive a recession, but you have to sell your way out of it. And so once you figure out how to survive at this lower level, now you've got to get creative and figure out how to turn this COVID-19 crisis into your friend so that you can grow your business. And I know it sounds easy and it's really hard in practice, but keep trying different things. Uh, and and keep adapting your sales approaches, keep adapting who your target customer is until you find some things that are starting to work. Uh, Now, some businesses have just been devastated. So if your revenue has gone to zero, uh, you might have to switch industries completely. For example, if I had a business that was selling to cruise lines, I'd probably think about changing my career and profession. Sometimes you got to know uh, when to give up the ship, so to speak. But I think that the number one, it's a mistake to sit there and wish for things to go back to the way they used to be. They're not going to. The world is changed. We will get through this crisis. We will get through COVID. We will survive, but the world will be different. It'll be a more online world. It'll be a more virtual world. People will come up with new ways to entertain themselves,
Right.
and the companies that do that uh, will thrive.
Right, right.
I don't
Yeah,
know if
it
that's
looks.
helpful.
No, it is. It is. Thank you. It looks like we're going to be living in a world that's driven by technology more and more than anything. And technology is the future. And I think the advice that I would also give to all the entrepreneurs is just to begin to gear yourself up to learn as much as you can about technology because it's not going backwards. We're already in the fourth industrial revolution and everything is changing. Things are being, there are companies that are shutting down because new companies run by young people are coming with brighter ideas and taking over those industries. So technology is the future. So yeah, I really would recommend that people, begin to focus a lot on technology.
Yeah,
All
and you
right. So
don't you don't oh wait, one more thing. You
yeah,
don't have to be in the technology business. You just have to figure out how to use technology tools to make your business run cheaper, better, and faster,
right,
right?
right.
And
Yes,
because nobody knows your business as well as you do. Don't
right,
let the
right.
Silicon Valley, technocrats come in and reinvent your industry. You know more about your own industry than anybody else. So
Right,
just
right.
just learn about these tools, experiment with these different tools, and when you see tools that can make your business better, use them.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. No, awesome. Jeff, I'm gonna open up to the floor because of time, and get a couple of people to ask questions. Right?
Jeff.
Hi,
Hi.
Lorenco.
My name is Lorenzo Miguel. I'm a business person and I'm into financial technology, a bit of uh, manufacturing, coating products, paint manufacturing, and all of that. But I also run a mentorship program that focuses on entrepreneurship, personal development, leadership, business strategy, and I've got quite a line. And from where you started to what you do, you currently do. I think the one thing that I would first like to understand, you said that because you come from a small community with about 3,000 people in population, and you went to a small school that enabled you to stand out from the rest of the class, which also allowed you to have great marks and all of that. Now, I'd like to take that into a business concept and try and get others to also try and understand. During this time, we've got people that are that CEO starting off that was in a small group that his business was doing well, and now it's basically in a collapse, virtue to say. And you've got big companies that have a board, that have executives, that has management, that has directors, which is a complete different level. Now, my point in understanding is how would you advise someone that is from a small business scale to try and scale up their business to try and become competitive to those that are not in that small population of a business group, so per se? That I don't know if that is clear to you.
Yeah.
What strategies would you advise them to use to come from this little corner that they're in and start playing in a much bigger scale, gradually growing into it?
Okay. I mean, one of our rules at Sunstone is we like to invest in companies that are involved in big markets. So, like, take Avertium, small little cybersecurity company doing about $20 million of revenue. But the cyber market is a multi-billion-dollar market, U.S., huge market, and there's a lot of big competitors in that market. But we're a little company, and we have a different ACS. When I was building ACS, I was building ACS to take on EDS and IBM. We did it with a lower cost structure. Our cost structure was 30% lower than IBM and EDS. We used
Okay.
workers all over the globe. We had great software that we had built ourselves that enabled us to do things faster than they could do them. And so we found pockets where we had competitive advantages um,
Mm-hmm.
in cost or quality. And and that's really what I would encourage you to focus on is how can you have an unfair competitive advantage in either cost or quality with whatever it is that you're doing. Then then you now have something that's worth scaling.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'll say about scaling small companies to big companies, because I've done it a number of times, sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully. It takes practice. You get better at it. The more it's like anything. The more you do it, the
Yeah.
better you'll get
The
at
better
it.
you get,
But
yeah.
but one thing I have learned: the people that can get you from an idea to maybe 10 million US of revenue, that's a different team than that can get you from 10 million to 100 million of revenue.
True.
There's very
Wow.
Even when I was building ACS, I had to change out my management team 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
not all at once, but just systematically.
Hmm.
This person was great. Now the business has gotten too big. It's too
And they cannot
complex.
handle it. Cannot handle the
They
pressure.
can't handle it. I need to hire. And it's like hire. Everybody likes football, right? So it's like a soccer team, right? Are we going to play at the Man Man United level or the Goodrich, Michigan level?
Hmm.
You need
Yeah.
different athletes. You need different athletes for different
Hmm.
sizes of business.
Um, Thank you, Jeff. Thank you so much for that enlightenment. I think you've definitely covered on that one, but you've also brought up something that I had already noted down, which is when you said that you now don't have to run your companies anymore because you have CEOs that you've appointed that run that business. Now, if we understand business in this scale of the business crisis, which are the 5 different level of business crisis that you have, which starts from delegating to your red tapes and leadership. I would also like to try and get your enlightenment when you say that you have to start with one team, but that team will not necessarily be the same team that will take you to where you want to get. How do you then get to a point where you understand the point in growth that you are at that you need to now change teams?
Yeah, that's one of the hardest things in business, uh, and that's why business is still has a lot of art to it, is science versus science, because people are involved, and as human beings, we're naturally loyal. Uh, we develop friendships with our coworkers.
Yeah,
We are reluctant to hurt feelings. We don't want to hurt feelings. That's why it's hard to fire people.
true.
Uh, Here's what I've developed over my years in business. I have learned that anytime I had to make a change in a person, the
Hmm.
common mistake I always made was I waited too long.
Yeah.
I kept
Okay.
trying to coach them. I would
Good.
say,
That's
Lorenco, I
powerful.
need you to sell better. I need you to
Hmm.
try harder. This isn't
Hmm.
working. And I would coach you for 6 months and I would still get the same results.
You'd not get an improvement on that.
Then I
Yeah.
would make a
Yeah.
change and I would
Hmm.
go hire John Bakuto, and John would like just amaze me with how much he could do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what I learned was, if I'm even asking myself the question, do I have a problem with Lorenco? The answer is yes, you do.
Hmm.
Wow, that's powerful.
If I'm even
Yeah.
That's
asking
amazing.
myself, because I shouldn't be asking myself the
Yeah, you
question,
shouldn't. True.
Yeah.
right?
Yes, that's definite.
And that's one of my mentors told me when I was a young CEO at ACS. He said, Jeff, you're now a CEO. You don't have time to teach anybody how to do their job. They either
Hmm.
know how to do it or they do not.
Yeah.
Your job is not to be a teacher. You're a
Lorenko, I want to
Thanks,
give
Dr. Walter.
other people yeah, I've got quite a flood of questions.
Hmm.
Taurai, please go ahead. Taurai, please go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, good evening, Dr. Alter. Good evening, Jeff. It's quite an honor to be in this meeting to tap off from your wisdom. Okay, my
Good
first
evening.
question was, uh, in South Africa here, lately there's been quite a number of cyber security incidents. That includes big banks and big corporate companies as well. And I've also seen Amazon and Microsoft have set up data centers also within South Africa as well. So the challenge that we currently have in South Africa is actually skills. It's been projected by uh, organization called IEC Squared, the International Information Security Consortium, that worldwide there's a shortage of 3 million cybersecurity specialists. So in that same vein, I wanted to ask, within your company, is there any plans to do a skill transfer or partner with any startups that are doing maybe small project here in South Africa?
Predicting that there's going to be a rash of cyber attacks breaking out about now through the rest of this year, because cyber criminal, we've got a lot of unemployed people sitting around looking at computer screens and trying to figure out how to scam some free money. So uh, I think cybersecurity has tremendous growth demographics, and if you want to train yourself in a skill that will be valuable probably for the rest of all of
That a couple of years down the line, you'll be able to sell it to someone else. In other words, it's still going to be relevant in the market. And also, you said that you want to look for companies with a big market, and I think that's one key thing that I picked up, that when you are investing in a company, you're looking for a company that has a big horizon, so that you know that it's not limited to just a small sector. So that's very interesting, I think. And just to add to that, yeah. Okay. Now, Tsepo Mkwananzi, please go ahead and ask your question. Tsepo, are you there?
I'm here, Doc.
Okay,
Can you hear me
please
now?
go ahead.
Yes,
Yeah, I
we
can hear you.
Good evening, Doc. Good evening, Jeff.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My question is pretty much simple, Jeff. What's the DNA of entrepreneurship, and how is it different to business, just to being a businessman? Because there's a wave of entrepreneurship that is just currently unfolding in South Africa, but then obviously some say entrepreneurship is not for everyone. Others are saying entrepreneurship can be learned. But I want to know what's in the DNA that would make people to persist in terms of approaching or even going for something, as opposed to those who will just simply give up because something is not working. What's the distinction there? And
yeah, that's a great question. And it's something I've thought a lot about, because when we're selecting CEOs, we look for certain DNA in them. Entrepreneurship, that's a skill set that all great entrepreneurs have, and they've got more of it than anybody else has, and that's perseverance. The ability to persevere. It just, they won't, they refuse to quit. Even when they lose to competitors, they don't quit. When they lose people, they don't quit. When they lose money, they don't quit. You just get up. Remember I said earlier in this discussion about making failure your friend. Entrepreneurs are very comfortable with failure, and they're comfortable with getting back up and doing it again and again and again. The Thomas Edisons, they won't quit. That's not for everybody. Some people don't like losing. They can't stand to lose. It's so painful to their psychology that they just can't tolerate it. That doesn't make them bad people. It's like there's a lot of different personality types in the human race. Not everybody's cut out for entrepreneurship. But if you can find somebody that just won't quit, that's the number one skill set that they hire Navy SEALs for: perseverance.
Awesome.
They try to make them quit. They put them through all that training and try to make them quit. And if you won't quit, at the end of it, you will be a Navy SEAL. But most of them quit.
Wow, that's
awesome.
amazing,
so
Jeff. Yeah, that's powerful. I've just finished watching now this afternoon a new documentary out on Netflix called The Last Dance, and it's really about Michael Jordan. I don't know if you've seen it and his career, but he took a small basketball team that was hardly known, and he drove his teammates to 6 championships. And they asked him, because they were saying, why is it that most of the people, your teammates, were saying that you're too tough on them, to a point where they think you're not a nice guy. And he said that's what it takes. he just wouldn't quit. He would persevere even after getting injured. And so he's the greatest basketball player of all time. And so I think this it's the same. Business is just like any sport. You know,
Yes.
you gotta put work and effort. You gotta train. You gotta get better. You gotta put in the hours. You gotta persevere until you get to the top. So
Yeah.
no, that's fantastic.
No,
Yeah, yeah.
that's I have watched that series, and you're absolutely Michael Jordan would be a great entrepreneur because he is persistent and he will not quit. But you're right. Business is a sport. You have to practice it, and you're not
Right.
going to be very
Wow.
good at it the first time on the court. You're
Right.
going to get
Good.
beat. You're going to
Right.
lose, and
Right.
you're going to have to
Yeah.
practice, and you're going to have to practice and practice and get better and better.
Thank you, Dr. Walter. I'm humbled and it's really a privilege to be on this platform. Greetings, Mr. Jeff. Really heard a lot about you, and it's really been exciting to absorb from the wealth of wisdom that you've acquired. Jeff, there's three questions that I have in
You
particular.
run out of battery.
Uh, my first question would be, what do we as Africans need to do to roll out our own Silicon Valley in Africa? Second question is, after you leaving the banking industry, who were your role models and which mentors did you have that guided you into the tech industry? And lastly, as a third question, would you consider it viable now to be investing in Chinese tech companies?
Uh,
Chase,
Thank you.
sorry, just tell us what you do. I mean, are you an entrepreneur? Have you
Apologies.
got a business? Yeah.
Okay, apologies, Dr. Walter. So yeah, I'm an aspiring entrepreneur. I'm currently a businessman. I do have my own company. I also work in another company that specializes in finance. They're like an equity financing firm.
okay.
So
Throughout every stage of my life, as a child, as a student, as a young banker, as a young CEO, even today. I learned so much by hanging around smart, engaging people, and it's just one of the great joys of my life. So you're going to pick up role models all throughout your. You should be able. You know, it's a good exercise. Make a list of the 50 most important role models in your life. Just sit down and make out that list. You'll find that you've actually got a. I have no idea. Uh, there's a lot of good back in China. Look, uh, remember we talked about big markets being important? Well, how many people on planet Earth? About 7 or 8 billion. 4 billion of those people are in Asia. China's got 1.3 billion. India's got 1.3 billion. You know, the U.S. and South America is another billion or so. Europe and Africa is another billion or so. You know, most of the people in the world are in Asia. So China's probably where the action's going to be for the next 50 years. Now, as for Africa, South Africa in particular, you asked the question, how does South Africa create a Silicon Valley? I wouldn't try to create a Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is all about computer technology. And Silicon Valley is a beautiful place where the computer industry has flourished since the 1960s. Uh, and people from all over the world that wanted to be in technology moved to Silicon Valley. It's an amazing cauldron of experimentation. I mean, there's Chinese people there, Indian people there, African people there. You know, look, Tesla, right? Look, look at Elon Musk, right? Who we stole from South Africa, who's now created amazing businesses like SpaceX and Tesla. Uh, so it's created this powerful community of really smart people that are using computer technology. If I was president of South Africa, I would try to focus on something different, something that's going to be the future. Maybe it's solar power, which the Chinese have got a big lead in solar power. But I would think of a world with automated driving, a world with electric cars, a world with cheap solar power, not fossil fuel power. Those are the kinds of industries that are small today, but 50 years from now could be huge industries. And that's what, if I was running South Africa, I would try to grab leadership in something that's still small today that we think is going to be big, rather than trying to recreate what somebody else has already done and compete with that. Does that make sense?
Yes, fully understood.
Right. No, fantastic. All right. We're about to wrap up. Now, I want to get the last question, and I don't know who to give the last question to. Anybody with a really ask a question? Jabulo to Mazana.
Hi, good evening, Dr. Walter and Mr. Jeff.
Good evening.
I'm into the business of logistics and supply management, but recently we started to go back into the ITC space because growing up, we did start a social media platform and we generated about 1.4 million page reviews, 300,000 signups, but we battled to convert that traction into sales or income. So my first question is, what can we do to roll out Silicon Valley into Africa? Number two is, what advice could you give to small and medium enterprises in the technology industry in Africa to upscale on the type of technology they sell? Because as a third world economy, we have a problem that likely whatever technology or innovation that you come up with, first world economies are already leading in terms of the advancements around it. So what sort of partnerships can we start integrating as Africans and start rather selling those technologies and coming more in a technical space and learning to adopt, to innovate as we go along?
I think developing technology is always difficult. Even our US companies that are trying to build new technology, we fail more often than we succeed. I can't tell you how many times I've sat in a board meeting where somebody wants to spend $1, $2, $3, $5 million developing this piece of technology. It sounds like a great idea. We say, okay, do it. And then 2 years later, we've got nothing for our investment. No new revenue, no new sales, kill the project. It was a dumb idea. Why'd we do that? So you have to be careful with new technology, but also don't get discouraged. You know, you tried it, right? You got some social media page views. You couldn't convert it to revenue. Now you know something. You're smarter. Part of the process of figuring out what does work is figuring out what doesn't work. Now you know. Don't do that anymore. You're smart. So don't beat yourself up too much. But I do think there's some interesting companies like Salesforce, Facebook, uh, are interesting platforms that you can build businesses on top of, and integrate those technologies into your customer bases, into how you serve your customers, and that's a little easier to do than building greenfield technologies. Uh, Another thing that I want all of you to take away is you actually have one advantage over the United States. Everybody in Africa uses a cell phone and uses it a lot because it's the only way to communicate. Your cellular technology is actually ahead of ours. And so use it when you're communicating with customers, when you're communicating with suppliers, when you're doing logistics. Make it all happen on this phone. Make it all happen on that phone. Because the phone I can use everywhere. I love cell-based technologies. I love text as a communication. Chat's a stupid technology. Don't invest in chat. But text is good because Walter could leave me a message and I'll get back to him when I want to. He also knows that I read my text. I read my text more frequently than anything else. I check it. I never listen to voicemail anymore, ever. I check my emails every day, but I'm checking my text messages all the time. So text is a great way to communicate with customers, with prospects, with customers. So, so I encourage you, figure out how to integrate text into your services into your mode of operation so that you can speed up the pace of business and provide better communications to your customers. I don't know if that's helpful at all,
100%.
but it's hard.
Yeah. No,
Thank you,
thanks,
thank you.
Jeff. Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks so much. And I know a lot of you still have a lot of questions, and unfortunately, we run out of time. And you know, but you know, thanks so much, Jeff, for the input. You know, just a few of the nuggets that I picked up. I mean, you said, you know, one should get ready to lose. I mean, that's a very powerful statement. I mean, you're gonna have mistakes as you go along, so you gotta get ready, prepare for those bumps in the road. You know, and I mean, also said when you're scaling up a business from 10 million to 100 million, you change the team because you need a different. I mean, not the same team that was playing at $10 million cannot be the same team that plays at 100 million. I mean, you had a company with 50,000 employees. You need a different set, a mindset to actually run that kind of thing, you know. And perseverance, you know, a key attribute of an entrepreneur is perseverance. Without that, you're not gonna get very far. Again, linked to getting ready to fail. So just a whole lot. Jeff, thank you so much. And I want to encourage all the entrepreneurs, business people on the platform. Our next session, please have a notepad. You know, I want to see people writing and taking notes because these are lessons that you want to be able to go back after the session and actually, you know, go through the notes again because, you know, they say you learn through repetition. So please have a notepad. Jeff will be
Typing,
joined.
Walter. Walter, we want to see them typing and taking notes on the computer,
All
not
right,
writing.
okay.
Not writing.
Yeah, there you go. Technology. All right, there you
right.
go. Typing
Some of you
and
may have
taking
recorded
notes.
it.
Yeah, there you go. That's
okay.
it. That's it. Okay. And next, Jeff will be joining us one more time on the 1st. Just take note of that, on the 1st of June. So you're gonna be seeing that. Go on my page, on my Facebook page. I want you to subscribe on my Facebook page, subscribe on my Instagram. We're gonna be advertising that. We're gonna have Vusi Tembekwayo is gonna be joining us together with Jeff. And we're going to have also John Lombella. These are top entrepreneurs in South Africa that are going to be joining us for that session. So we've got people lined up. We're advertising it again. We've got the editor of Forbes magazine. You know, she's coming on board. Farai Gundan is going to be joining us. We've got the CEO of the NBA. You know, so you're going to have you have a chance to ask him about The Last Dance. You know, if
right.
you've got questions on the documentary, you can ask him about that. So we got a serious lineup, chairman of the lottery, etc., etc. These are people that are going to be coming. So I want you to subscribe so that we can send you updates and make you aware of you know, when these things these events are going to be taking place, so we can send you the links, etc. And again, this is a closed group. I want people that are serious, people that want to grow, people that want to learn. And we are investing into this platform. Like I said, we're building an academy. Very soon, this will be a university, an online university, where you can actually learn and get a course and get a certificate, where you can go out there and say, you know, I've been trained and I'm qualified to actually run a business. So we're going to be doing that. So Jeff, thank you so much, my friend, and love
Pleasure.
to your family. And
Ciao.
we look forward to having you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody.
Take care.
Thank
Ciao.
you so much. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Thanks. Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
God bless you. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.